Welcome, everyone, to the Ontario Caregiver Organization's webinar series. These webinars bring together caregivers and subject matter experts to explore topics of interest to caregivers. We do this to support and engage chosen family, friends, neighbors who are caring for someone. I'm Carmen Paquette, and I will be your moderator today. Before we begin, I'll take a moment to acknowledge the lands we are on today. While we meet on a virtual platform, I would like to acknowledge the importance of the land which we each call home. I am joining you today from the Ottawa region, the traditional territory of the Algonquin and Anishinaabe people. Today, this gathering place is home to many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit peoples, and acknowledging reminds us that our great standard of living is directly related to the resources and friendship of Indigenous people. If you'd like to learn more about the lands you are joining us from, you can use the interactive map in the chat box to assist you in identifying the traditional territory where you are situated. OCO is excited to welcome Ron Bellino, an experienced family caregiver who will discuss how technologies and tools available today can support caregivers, with each caregiver facing unique challenges that can be overwhelming to determine which technologies will provide the most benefit in improving the lives of both caregivers and the individuals they care for. Ron will simplify this process and offer insights on how to effectively invest in technology and tools that can better support caregivers. Ron Bellino is an experienced family caregiver who cared for his late father with Alzheimer's for over 10 years. He is an active advocate in the dementia, caregiving, aging, and research communities. Ron is affiliated with AgeWell, Canada's Technology and Aging Network, where he serves as the co-chair of their Older Adult and Caregiver Advisory Committee. As a leading advisor to government, healthcare organizations, researchers, and innovators, Ron educates and consults on technologies aimed at improving caregiving for all. Welcome, Ron.
Thank you, Carmen, and thank you for that introduction. It's a pleasure to be joined here with Carmen on this webinar today. Greetings, everyone, and thank you for coming today. Today officially is the first day of spring, I believe, so it's a great day to kind of learn new things. Okay, this is where a lot of new things happen. I'm Ron Bellino, and I'm excited for this presentation because it's something that I've been doing for many years. It's not the first time I've done this presentation around technology. And it's a presentation that can go for 3 hours, let's just say. I've done lectures on this, but we're going to do this in 1 hour, and actually even less than that, because we want to make sure you have the time to ask some questions at the end. So you're welcome to ask questions. We have a superb team with the Ontario Caregiver Organization behind the scenes that will be helping us with a few of those questions. So you're welcome to just ask along the way. But I will save the answers for the end, okay? So let's get to this. Again, for those that are attending live, thank you. And again, there are some people that are going to be attending and watching this as a recording. So the first lesson I'm throwing out here is thank you for investing your time, okay? Why I say that is because it's linked to this presentation, okay? I'm going to be talking about technology. I'm going to be talking about caregiving, okay? But I'm talking about it at a very different level, okay? I will be showing some technologies, but I'm more interested in how you figure out what's the best technology for you, okay? So here we go. So the title of this presentation is Using Technology to Support the Caregiver and the Recipient Relationship, okay? The recipient being the person that you're caring for. There's some contact details there that you guys can see. Just to let everyone know that sometime next week, we will also be sending out a copy of this presentation. It'll be sent to you by email, so you'll also see some of these slides there, well, pretty much all of them, with some links as well. So if you're one that takes notes, great, but you'll also have time to kind of see the video again in a recording, but you'll also be able to get a PDF version of this afterwards. Okay, so that's my contact details. So in this picture, you see technology. That technology is a computer, okay, a laptop. But also on this piece of technology are tools, okay? I want people to start putting that together, okay? You guys are all coming here to kind of learn about technology, but it's really technology and tools, okay? And I'm trying to make sure that people understand that let's not get caught up on technology. We shifted towards what is the best tool to support caregivers, okay? But we'll keep it together today. I'm going to say technology many times, but it's technology and tools. So that's the first lesson to, or another lesson to realize that these are simply tools. We have smart devices, we have watches, we have all that stuff that there's too many for me to list out today. So I want you guys to kind of learn that, hey, these are tools. Let's look at them as tools and what's the best tool for caregiving, okay? So it's technology and tools, okay? So just to let you know what I'll be talking about today, I'm going to start it off with my expectations for the audience, for you guys. Yeah, I'm here to help you guys move forward in your lives with some kind of technology, maybe a strategy. There's other people that are attending this. They're not just caregivers, so I'm going to be addressing them as well, like researchers and innovators. Okay, we'll talk a bit about what it means to be a caregiver. Okay, I can't just go into talking about technology without really understanding, well, why are we even bringing in technology? Okay, what are the challenges of caregivers? I will discuss the challenges faced by caregivers. Okay, and I'm using that word specifically. Okay, the word challenges. Okay. We'll talk about that for the caregiver and even the care recipient, such as my father, okay, when he was around, what were some of the challenges that he had to go through. Technology and tools, I'll be sharing a few of those there. And then I'll talk about the skills, okay? It's a skill to actually bring in technology into a caregiver's life, okay? So developing the skills to choose better technologies and tools. Okay, so that's what we'll be talking about. For this presentation, I'm going to try and go 40 minutes to go through all that stuff. I might be going just a little bit faster. I'm not going to spend too much time on everything, but I just want to touch upon all these themes. Okay, and then you can take it away, rewatch this, look at the PDF, and then take it to the next level and learn more. But I just want to make sure that I get this all out to you. As I said, this is easily a 3-hour presentation for me that I'm kind of trying to put in a jam-packed 1 hour, okay? So let's go. A little bit about Ron's expectations. Okay, so this is for you guys, okay? So there's a famous phrase out there, if you give a man a fish, you can feed him for a day, okay? But if you teach him how to fish, you feed him for a lifetime, okay? Every time caregivers come up to me, okay, I meet a lot of them across the country and online, and they said, Ron, can you tell me what's the best technology for this? What can I use, okay, to help my dad, okay? And before I move forward, I just want to remind everybody, even though I'm going to be talking about dementia and caregiving to a parent, this applies to any type of caregiving, okay? This could be caregiving for a partner, caregiving for a child, okay? Caregiving from a child to a grandparent. So this is not just for dementia, even though that's what I'll be using as my examples, but this is it for every type of caregiver, okay? So when caregivers ask me, what technology should I use? I can't just give you one answer, okay? If someone says, I'll be talking about, well, my dad goes missing, that's a popular one for me, okay? Which is the best GPS device, okay, locating device, okay? I can't give you and say, here, I'm going to feed you this one device, okay? Because that's not how this works best, okay? It's better that I teach you the questions you need to ask, the conversation you need to ask about the technology, okay? Sometimes it's a cost issue. I could say, hey, use this, and then you realize later, wow, that's a $500 toy that we didn't use, okay? or that, you know what, that's a technology that you're showing me that looks ugly in my home, okay, and they're not going to use it. So it really depends. So that's why I prefer to teach you a little bit of how to use technology. Okay, that quote was from a Chinese philosopher, Lao Tzu, and today I'm going to be talking about the how, more specifically, versus the what technology should I be using. Okay, you're welcome to ask me in the questions specifically. I have this challenge run. What would be probably the best technology for my challenge? I'll answer that, but more importantly is the how. Okay. I also want you to understand who is in our audience. Okay. I am speaking primarily to caregivers today, but as well, this is a huge group. There are a lot of people signed up, a few hundred for this presentation. That includes healthcare, that includes researchers that are joining us, innovators. So some people who are creating these solutions, these tools, and others internationally. So there's a lot of people here, but again, primarily to caregivers, but I will also speak from the perspective towards some of these other audiences that are joining us. And then your job. Okay, I always want to challenge the audience that let's not, use this time where you don't benefit. I really want you to find 3 takeaways today. Okay, I don't know what that'll be. Hopefully, you might have already found 1 or 2 in the first few minutes here, but maybe there might be a few more. If you take more than 3, great. But I'm just asking, find 3 things you can take away, either for yourself, for your life, or for other people around you, and pass that piece of information to them. Okay. Sometimes it's just that one idea, or maybe that one new way of thinking in the caregiving space, where that could be gold to someone. That could be to a caregiver, say, I never thought of that. Okay. And that was worth that investment or that return of information. So that is my ask of all of you. Just find 3 things, okay, that you can take away from today. Okay. So being a caregiver, a little background about who I am. Well, hang on, sir, before I go there. Caregivers. Okay. Oh, I'm missing some words here. Don't know where it went. Okay. This is where the technology gods kind of is playing a game with me today. Okay. So there's a list of words here that somehow didn't show up right now. I'll say what those are. Okay. So who are caregivers? Okay. I'm going to just come back to me here. Who are caregivers? Caregivers that's a label, really. That's all it is. Okay. But words do matter. I'm going to say some words that for some people, they don't resonate with those words. So for me, these are my words that I'm going to be using today when you see the presentation. Caregivers. Okay. But caregivers could also be a carer, a care partner. Okay. In the US, they use the word caretaker. Okay. Well, one's a giver, one's a taker, depending where you're at. But they mean the same thing. But giver and taker are opposite. Some will not even use the word caregiver. Some will use the words like, I'm just the son. I'm the daughter. I'm the neighbor. Okay? I'm not a caregiver. That's fine in my talks, in my presentation. So I just want people to be aware that I will use some words that are my words. It may not resonate with the healthcare world or some others. You adjust it, but on your end, okay? But I have to say that first and foremost, just so you're aware that, Ron's not a healthcare person. I'm not coming from healthcare. I'm coming from the lived experience of a caregiver, and this is the words that I use. So was that slide that somehow disappeared with these words. Okay, anyways, just something to be aware of there. Okay, so a little background. So who are these 2 lovely people? That's mom and dad. Okay, Filipinos that came to Canada. They got together. They had this good-looking guy. His name is Ron. Okay, Filipinos like to combine their names together. My mom's name is Ronces. Dad's name is Ronaldo. You got the Ron and the Aldo. You put it together, you got Ronaldo. Okay, that's a theme in a lot of Filipino families. I was their only child, and therefore I was their favorite child, known as Ron. If my dad went first, okay, and he said, no, I want my name to go first, well, I would have been called Ray plus the Cess. Doesn't matter how you spell it, but how you say it, I would have been called racist my whole life. So thank you for not going first, Dad. Otherwise, people would have judged me right away if I was called racist. Okay. Part of our care team, there was Lucky. Okay. So Lucky the cat. When Lucky came on board, Lucky became my mom's favorite. I was no longer the favorite, and was known as Lucky's, or that I was Lucky's brother. Not that Lucky was my brother. She always led with Lucky. Uh, you know, Ron is the brother of Lucky, so that's a family there. Just some credentials that I'm connected to, as I mentioned, AgeWell, Canada's Technology and Aging Network. People may want to be interested in learning more about some of these groups. You'll get links to that later. But AgeWell does a lot of work around innovation and research. Okay, a lot of work around research. Okay, CABI, Center for Aging and Brain Health Innovation, also a lot of work around technology innovation for the aging population specifically, and for their caregivers. Okay, so that's the Center for Aging and Brain Health Innovation, part of that group there. I'm a mentor with the University of Toronto's Faculty of Medicine, um, Canadian Center for Caregiving Excellence, the National Organization on Caregiving out there, Women's Brain Health Initiative. Okay, that is a lot of caregivers are women. If you don't know the stats, majority are women. So there's a lot of work happening there. And just one home care company that I'm affiliated with is Right at Home Canada. And they're bringing in a lot of innovation to care. So that's one of the things I'm working with there. Okay. So we're moving along here nicely. Caregivers that are listening to this presentation, many of you who are a little bit more seasoned, meaning that you've been a caregiver for a while, to whoever in your life, you'll understand some of these things that I'm going to bring up, okay? But there's still a lot of people that don't understand what it means to be a caregiver. And some of them are creating solutions. They have great intent. They want to help the caregivers, okay? They wanted to help me, but many years ago, I've been in this, like, I think now 15, 20 years. I thought the researchers were the experts. Many of the healthcare community might be the experts. The innovators might be the experts on how to help me and care for my life, care in my life for my dad. Many times they didn't. Okay, so caregivers sometimes are the more powerful, knowledgeable people that are at the table. And that's why I'm kind of excited to know that there are other people here attending or watching the recording. Okay, so I need to explain who are caregivers. Okay, so there's my dad. Okay, you don't need to read all of this. Okay, I'm going to verbalize some of it here. Okay, this is just a list. Okay, okay, but I'll try and get into a few of them here. So my dad was diagnosed back in 2007. Okay, we all have our stories, and this is my story here. Okay, my words. Okay, we had challenges over the years. I use challenges instead of the word problems. That's for another presentation. But challenges, we can solve for them if we put the work towards that. Okay, so challenges were gradual. Parents lived 20 minutes away from me, so I was a remote caregiver, a distant caregiver. Okay, maybe not that far, but far enough that I knew what it was like to not be there when my mom was going through a breakdown and my dad was on the floor or whatever that might have been. And then my dad passed away at home in 2018. Okay, so a lot of work. Somehow we were blessed on that, but wasn't easy. We were preparing for long-term care. Just he passed away at home. Okay. Challenges. This is just a list that I'm throwing out here. There's a lot more. Okay, you fill it in. Okay, but if you can break it down into challenges, then you can decide which is the best technology we're solving for. Don't let the technology lead. Let the challenge be the leader, okay, in how you decide what you're going to do. Okay, you may not even incorporate technology, okay, or a tool. Okay, so these are just some. Again, my words: memory loss, verbal communication challenges. You see a whole bunch there. The one that I do a lot of work around is there's a few of them here. Where did it go here? Is walking, and I use the word wandering. Okay, walking and wandering. Okay, my dad would get lost. Okay, that's where I started incorporating technology. Anything with a T that you see here, okay, means that I utilize some kind of technology or tool. Okay, and you're seeing that there's a lot of T's. Okay, okay, I'll explain what technologies are in a second because it's not all high tech. Okay, technology could be low tech. Okay. But anything that you would say, Ron, what was that technology that you used? Let's go back to my dad going missing, walking, and he'd get lost. Well, the technology we used were GPS devices, okay, locating devices. This was back in 2010. I used a camera in my mom and dad's home, okay? Camera, like one of these that you might see here, okay, which are more common now, okay? That I was using so that, hey, mom, you go to sleep, I'll watch dad, okay? By the way, my aunt in California, I need some break. I need a break. I need some respite. Can you help watch dad as well to make sure he's safe? Can you get on a video call with him, okay, so that he doesn't leave the house and that we're not panicking because someone we know is at least taking care of him with the use of technology, okay? So that's a few right there, okay? Uh, and I'll go into that a little bit more in more detail in a bit, okay? I always say you can't do this by yourself, okay? Be careful. I'm shifting from the technology conversation to what I like to call becoming Superman or Wonder Woman, okay, a superhero as a caregiver, okay? So what I'm asking you to do is to kind of be careful of being, that person, and let me come here, that Superman or Wonder Woman that I was trying to do it all myself for the first 3 to 5 years. And I realized, hey, to all of you caregivers, you're going to need support, especially if it gets quite deeper into the care. Okay. So taking a little piece of tip here away from technology, make sure you create a care team. Okay. Care team, first and foremost, just by knowing the Ontario Caregiver Organization and coming to like these webinars, that's part of your team. They've helped you get some education and information, but your care team's all around you. Okay. So keep that in mind. That care team, when I started saying, hey, I need some neighbors to help me out. I need the coffee shop, okay, who I'm willing to share with, where my dad goes, hey, I need some help, because I need another set of eyes when my dad's out there. Okay. The restaurant he would go to, the church he would go to. You combine that care team plus technology and tools, plus better strategies, then everything starts working much higher, okay, at a much higher level. A phrase I came up with, which I like to let people know, is caregiving, a lot of heavy stress coming down to the one caregiver, if you stay that one caregiver, okay? But to create some success, you have to kind of spread the stress. So my saying is, when you spread the stress in caregiving, you can increase success. So you spread the stress to increase success of caring. You spread that stress by getting some neighbors. Okay, you can spread that stress, okay, by using technology and tools. Okay, so that's what I want you guys to kind of understand. Okay, as I continue back into this part here. Who's part of our team? A whole bunch of people. You can see a whole bunch of them there. Some of them you may know some of those words from the past. Here in Ontario, if you've been caring for a while, you know what a CCAC is. LHINs, the Ontario Home, or wherever they're at with their names right now, but they're a part of it. I had the Alzheimer's Society. So all of them, okay, even though they were part of our care team, they all had T's beside them. I utilized some form of technology in some way, okay? It could be simply just the way we communicated, okay? How did we use technology, okay? So that's just something to keep in mind where that'll be utilized. I forgot to mention, there's someone probably staring at this and say, what is that minus T? Okay. Well, time and place concerns. Sometimes technology gets in the way of life, of caring, of whatever that is. Sometimes you don't want technology. We didn't realize that my dad, okay, was triggered by the clock. Okay. The clock is a form of technology. Okay. When the clock would hit a specific time, with his dementia, he would think he had to go to work. And then he would start getting ready, and then he would then leave. And we couldn't figure out, he just wants to like keep leaving at this time. When we remove that technology, okay, that clock, then that was reduced. Okay, so that's why I put a minus T. Sometimes technology is actually getting in the way. Okay, so keep that in mind as well. If you don't need technology, you don't need to use it. I'm not a person who says, go get technology, go get technology, go get technology. That's not the way I approach it. Okay, what is your challenge? And how do we spread that stress so that the stress on the caregiver reduces, okay? And technology and tools are one of those ways, okay? So hopefully this is making sense to some of you guys there. I believe it is, but I'm not looking at the chat at the moment. So technologies and tools, as I said, for better care. Okay. Words matter to me, the words that I choose. Okay. Sometimes that one word can define the journey of a caregiver. Okay. It can define how you approach something. Okay. Many caregivers, and this is not a judgment piece, but because I get to see the patterns of how people speak over time and the words they choose, and I can see, oh, the ones that keep choosing the word, for example, right or wrong, seem to have more stress than people that say, I'm trying to do my best. Is this the best way? Okay. Tiny little piece of thing in language, but this is Ron's opinion. Okay. There's a lot of person-centered language out there, or what's the right words to use. I'm not against that. Okay. For me, instead of saying technology and tools for the right care, it's for better care. Okay, that's how I look at it there. Because if it's not right, a lot of people put a lot of pressure then. If it's not right, then it's wrong. No, there's a lot more choices. There are a lot more creative choices out there. So I say, what can we do that's the best or better care? May not be perfect, but is it better than what's going on right now? So how do we figure that out with technology here? Okay. So I want people to kind of think about this for a second. Did any of you use the toilet today? Okay. Chances are, by this time of the day, for many of you, middle of the day, you probably have used a toilet. Okay. You don't realize, and many forget about this, okay, that a toilet is a piece of technology. Okay. There are many places around the world that don't have toilets. Okay? But if they bring in a toilet, people will look at that as like, wow, this is cool. Okay. So I want you to look at the plumbing system as a start here. If we didn't have the plumbing system, like water getting into our homes, into our communities, okay, and there's a lot of places even in Ontario that don't get water properly. We haven't figured that out, but let's just say we have. Okay, it brings in all these technologies, these tools in our lives. Okay, you can wash your hands. Okay, you don't have to go outdoors to do your business. Okay, okay, to go to the bathroom. Okay, we can clean our clothes and save time. Okay, for those that like to clean their clothes, great. But for those that don't like to wash the dishes and it takes up a lot of time, these tools saves us time. Okay, so that's one way to look at that. They're technology. Those are technologies at one point. Okay, we just don't realize that now in our lives that they're part of our lives. Okay, again, having a shower to keep us clean, healthy. Okay, to grow things. Okay, in places that we're not supposed to be growing, food or gardening. Okay, that's allowing us to do that. Okay, it allows us. I'm going to take this to another level. Okay, you might think that okay, I get to grow some flowers, I get to grow food. Think about that as a caregiver. That is some form of respite for some caregivers. Okay, that without the ability to maybe grow a flower, or to garden, okay, they may not have access to that kind of respite that they enjoy. Okay, so these are technologies. We have technology to keep us safe. Okay, with water. Okay, there's a fire, we have technology. If that technology fails, we're kind of in trouble if there is a fire. Okay, so just want people to understand, one way to look at technology. Okay, now let's pick the internet. Okay, consider the internet as something like a plumbing system. Okay, that delivers technology to support the lives of people. Okay, now we don't all need the internet or let's just say technology is not all about the internet, but I'm just using this as an example so you guys can all kind of think about this. Okay, so these are technologies that I use for caregiving that you're going to see as I kind of get through this year. Okay, so there's the internet out there. Okay, and here are some technologies. Of course, many of you can't be benefiting from this webinar without having some kind of laptop or a tablet, a smartphone, which will be smaller to see on, but you'll still get to hear me. You'll get to get the idea of this presentation. Okay, so you need that. Okay, how many people don't have access to this and will not get educated because they don't have technologies like this? Okay, there are cameras and sensors out there. Okay, I'm going to pause right here to kind of say a few of you are probably judging at this moment oh, I don't want a camera. Okay. That's taking care of, or that's going to cross over on the line when it comes to privacy. Yes, it does on some of these things. Okay. As you're going through this, let's be careful of judging right away some of these solutions as you're trying to figure out what's the best technology for my challenge. Once you start judging and you haven't really learned about the technology, you're probably going to miss out on some things. Okay. So do your best to not judge right away. Okay. Some people will say, this looks too scary for me. Okay. This is virtual reality. Okay. Hear it out first. Okay. First, hear it out before you start judging. Okay. Here are some that we were using. That's a Canadian company, Safe Tracks. They do some GPS stuff. I had GPS devices on my dad. That's the first one we have. I still have it to this day, 10, 15 years later. Just, it's not working, but we had two of those on him. Okay, there was a backup in case one failed. Okay, sometimes you want backup technology. These are smart home devices, okay, that people can use to play music, to communicate with people, of course, to ask questions. I could say here, Alexa, turn on the globe light. Okay, if you guys saw that, okay, that's a pink light here, just in there. I can, hey, Alexa, make globe light blue. Okay, why share that? Okay, that's now, okay, some of the technologies we have, these smart devices in the home. I had something like that at my dad's home, not as fancy as what our advances today, but remotely, when my dad was kind of getting stressed, I would control his light from a distance, okay? And I would be able to adjust the color if, let's say, hey, make it a color that I know will give him more energy, okay? That could be something like a bright white. Or if I say, hey, okay, he's kind of getting agitated, let's support him. Let's make the light blue, okay? So that's just something to keep in mind that you can care with technology remotely. I was using devices like the Alexas here, okay? You know, like these ones, they're sometimes like a puck, okay? Oh, sorry. Okay. Let me unplug this, okay? Some of them look like just a puck, okay? There's no cameras on them, okay? And these are the ones that I can speak to, okay? And then I could communicate with other people. I could have photos for my dad. I can control them from a distance. There's a lot of those kind of technologies to support the environment, okay? So let me come back. I'm kind of going off, let's go back here, okay? So there's smart devices, okay? There's a lot of researchers that are on here. I know that's studying a lot of these smart devices. I'm on a few of those teams. Insoles, this is a personal passion of mine, a tiny little plug and full disclosure here. One of the solutions I've been working on with a team here in Canada are insoles, okay, with technology in it, where we can wirelessly, this goes in the shoe can wirelessly go on top of this, and it's wirelessly being charged, okay? This is to help people that get lost, okay? There is another one or two versions of this from other companies we've taken to another level, okay? And this is going to be launched soon. So for the innovators out there, yes, it takes a while sometimes to innovate, okay? But if you really understand the challenge that caregivers go through and you can execute, you might one day get to something like this, okay? There's more to this that I won't share right now, but yeah, that's that there, okay? So insoles, technology counts as Uber, you know, or any of these services to connect people, okay? So how does that help a caregiver, okay? The investment to actually have delivery come to your home versus going out there to caregiver, if that saves you 1 hour in the week, if not more, caregivers, you know what the return is on that. Okay. If the cost is something that can be afforded and you can do that, caregivers want to save some of their time. Okay. So yeah, so these are just some technologies, and I could go through so many, but I'm not gonna, it really depends on the challenge. So let's get through this part here, and then we're getting close to Q&A in the next 5-10 minutes. So some examples of caregiving challenges that technology or a tool can support, okay, to make better, okay? Not to make it right, okay, not to make it perfect, but can we make it better, okay? So I gave an example. Many of you right now, we're using technology for a method of communication. I'm communicating to you some information. Hopefully you're getting 1, 2, or 3 tips to take away today. or more. Okay. Reminders. Caregivers, you have so much mental stress that goes on. Okay. To remember everything, put that somewhere. Okay. Get that out of your head if you can. Last week here in Canada was National Brain Awareness Week. Okay. And I was asked to be on a talk with Brain Canada, a few others, and some research. And I spoke from the caregiver perspective. And I said, caregivers have so much to remember. Okay? Use technology to offload that. Okay? Many of you know what I'm talking about already, but there are many other ways to do it. Take as many pictures as you need to. Okay? Okay? We're not using the old cameras where you only have like 18 or 24 shots of film, which some of you know what I'm talking about. Take as much photos as you can. Photos for my dad that, hey, if he's going missing, okay, I want to make sure I have photos of his clothes so that if he is missing, I know what he's wearing. I can look at what's missing in his closet. Okay, things like that. Take pictures of, your paperwork, or if you have another system. There's a lot of apps out there for note taking, for remembering things, for reminders. Okay, so keep that in mind. There's just so many out there. I can't list them all, but you have an idea of what I'm talking about here. So that's, reminders and notes. Stimulation. Okay, so virtual reality could support my dad to get some stimulation. One of the things that I have, I don't know if I'll be able to share everything here, but would be a simple keyboard. Okay, didn't need to invest in the piano that he likes to play on or that I like to play on. It's hard for him to get off the seat sometimes. So, hey, Dad, here you go. Put it on your lap. Okay, $75 at that time, huge investment. How many hours did I get out of this with this on his lap? Okay, that would have been, I don't know, 100 hours easily over the years, if not more, because of this investment. Okay, okay. So stimulation. Okay, there's many ways with stimulation. Of course, safety and monitoring. I kind of started talking about that. Mobility. How do we help people move about with assistive technologies? Quality time. Okay, the quality time piece. I gave the example of a dishwasher, of a washing machine. Those are technologies that support us with time. Okay, so what can you do with that time? Well, hopefully it's more quality time for that relationship with the recipient that you're caring for, or quality time for yourself, for respite. There's so many ways that we got to play with time. Okay, and there's a few more here. I'm not going to go through all this right now. Okay, but of course, so money. Okay, is actually, I'm going to speak about that. The investment now actually going to save me down the road? That's the hard one people can't figure out, or they don't know how to calculate that, which I'll talk about here. Okay, so that's a few right there. But with technology, you also want to be careful, okay, of the bad stuff. I won't go into all of it now, but we also have to kind of be guarded. Okay, with the good comes the bad. Okay, for example, there's ethical issues, there are human rights issues. Should I just be putting technology on my dad without him even knowing about it? No, that's my personal opinion, but a lot of caregivers do that. They'll set up a camera, they'll put a GPS device on someone. I'm not judging that they're a bad person. That's not what that is. It's just there are ways that we can navigate that better. Okay. Privacy issues. Okay. If you're afraid of things that people are listening to you, or I get that. So many times the intent is not for something bad to happen, majority of times, but there are bad people also out there that's going to take advantage and use technology against us. Okay. It can take a while to learn how to use technology. The maintenance. How do you even take care of it if you're not one who understands how to fix technology? My tip, have a care team that also includes one or two people that understand technology, if that's not you. Okay, that should be part of your care team moving forward. If you don't have access to technology and knowledge through someone helping you out, you're actually going to struggle as we get into the future. Okay, that's a lot of things require technology. I was just chatting yesterday with a caregiver, whether he's a caregiver innovator, whether he's on here right now or not. We're talking about what he has to do for his parents just to sometimes get their password so that he could help them with their documents, with their insurance policies, with whatever that is. Okay. Their parents just can't navigate that. So you should be having someone in your life, not just for the caregivers, but for the person you're caring for. And as we move forward into the future, okay, that's kind of a necessity that we're going to need. Okay. Technologies, last slide here. Okay. What was this last slide? What am I going to talk about? Oh, developing skills. Okay, the skills to choose better technologies and tools. So there's a process. My process is what I'm giving you. You might have a different way, okay, of how you choose technology. I'll give you what I believe is the best. Okay, so I call this the calculating caregiver. Okay, this applies to the caregivers here. This also applies to the researchers, innovators, those trying to help the caregivers. Okay. And this isn't just for technology, but this is the ROs that I'd like to call them, the return on. Okay, what is the return on, that technology? What is the ROI? That's the popular one that a lot of people will understand. Even if you're not a business person, I spend $10 for this. What am I going to get out of this? I spend $100, $1,000, $10,000, whatever that number is. What's that return on investment? Okay. I hope in this 1 hour that you're watching this video, okay, this webinar, I'd like to try and give you a high return on your investment, but more specifically, not your dollars. We're not talking about dollars here. Your return on time. Okay, what is the return on the time that you're getting out of this? Hopefully, something I've said, something from the Ontario Caregiver Organization and what they do, okay, will give you a high return on your time in the future, whatever that is. Either give you more quality time that you want or reduce the time that's of stress of whatever a caregiver goes through. Okay. Other ROs, return on technology. Okay, there's a way you calculate this. Okay, it's different for everyone. That's why I can't just say use this technology. Okay, there's a technology that I was given from friends from Japan. Okay, some researchers came by. There's a lot of pet robots, animal robots, okay, out there. Okay, I don't have to take this for a walk. This one I don't really get. It's a cultural thing, I believe. This one, you put your finger in the mouth and it nibbles on your finger. Okay, and then you take it out. If you look it up, I forgot the name of this Japan nibble finger stuff robot. It's popular there. I have no idea why, but great things come out of Japan, sushi and all that. But anyways, giving an example of that technology makes people happy for some reason. Okay, so what's the return on the technology? What's the return on the GPS device that I had? That return was quite high. Okay, or technology that $200 straight up investment plus the $25 per month, let's say less than $1,000 a year, allowed my dad every year for at least another 3 years to go out into the community, okay, to exercise, do whatever he needed, reduced my fear, increased my confidence. Okay, so there's a lot of ways to look at technology. You kind of have to know the challenge and what's the return. What's the return on emotions? Okay, I'll go through this a little fast here, but emotions for everybody. Tell me what the 2 or 3 emotions are related to that technology, okay, to a camera, okay, to a piano, okay, and then you're probably going to see whether or not you're going to invest in that or not. The emotions many times are what drives caregivers to say, I am afraid of this. I'm willing to spend the money for that or to bring in that technology. Or, wow, that gets me excited. It makes me laugh. I'm going to invest in that. Okay, so emotions. What's the return on quality of life? Okay, the values. Okay, what's the return on my dad being able to go to church? Okay, or watch something that is spiritual for him on the television or on a recording. Okay, for the occupational therapists out there, yeah, you guys know what I'm talking about. Energy conservation. How much energy can we save? Okay, or how much brain energy can we save? And I didn't finish that conversation for Brain Health Week last week. I talked about how much was in our heads for caregiving and how do we get that out of our heads? Okay, how do we, so that we can, conserve our energy? Okay, and then return on blank, you have to fill it in. It's person-centered, caregiver-centered. It really depends on the individual and that person you're caring for and that family or that community. It's different for everyone. So you got to get better on calculating the return on the numbers, okay? Just so happens all these are numbers, you can get data from this. These return on the numbers. It wasn't planned. It spelled out my name, the Rons. Okay, so if you ever forget, one of the things that Ron likes to talk about is how do we get better at calculating, uh, to be a better calculating caregiver or support caregivers at telling them by using this technology, hey, Ron, okay, you'll reduce your fear. You'll increase your dad's ability to go out and be active. Okay. He'll be out in the community, support him to age in place. Okay. If he is missing, okay, it'll increase your chances of finding him. So your stress level is lower, all that stuff. So that's just what I want people to understand when it comes to innovation and technology. So we're supposed to start Q&A right at this time, but I'm going to give an extra 1 or 2 minutes here to just show 1 or 2 videos here. So I'll share my screen and you're going to see a little bit about my dad. A lot of people who've already seen me before, seen this. My dad on a tool, a musical instrument.
Very good.
Okay. So there's my dad. Without that tool, he probably would be bored. He's not a bingo guy. He wouldn't be playing bingo or coloring. That's what he enjoyed. Look at this technology. It's a cheap one. Let me play it here. Okay. Again, this was technology that I invested probably $5 back in 15, 20 years ago. That simple door chime allowed my mom to go to sleep. Okay. I didn't know she was not sleeping because she was so worried that my dad would leave the home and she wouldn't be aware that he left, and he'd be lost. That's called a silent exit. Okay. So that saved my mom a lot of stress. I didn't know that, but that was worth that $5 investment on that simple technology. Amazing. Okay. So I will leave that. I did have a few other videos, but for now, we'll stop that. Hopefully you guys got the ideas of the process of how to look for technology, how to create technology, how to communicate it, for caregivers. But yeah, that's really what I wanted to share with you guys. I have other technologies here, but there's just too many, right? As I said, too many tools out there. Which is the best one? I wanted you guys to know how to do it. Okay, so I'm going to say thank you for listening in, and I'm going to see if Carmen's back here, and then we'll get into a conversation.
Well, thank you so much, Ron, for opening up this whole area that maybe some of us hadn't considered before. As you were giving examples, I could see that, some of them require at least a little bit of an investment or a bigger investment. Do you know if insurance companies or OHIP reimburse any of this stuff?
Yeah, so it depends again what we consider as technology. Okay, so here in Ontario, I'm probably we have better experts probably even listening in. So assistive devices. So there's an ADP program, assistive devices program. Okay, what most people would consider that, I believe, would be, let's say, a wheelchair. Okay, a wheelchair is technology. Okay, just there's no batteries. Well, no, there's batteries in some of them. So there is that there, Carmen. So yes, but not enough. And if we can influence policy, I was meeting with Ontario Ministry of Seniors and Accessibility recently, did a presentation to them and other groups. It's like, hey, look at this as an investment. Let's get proactive than reactive, okay, with the technology. So some of this is to prevent things from happening. So there is funding out there. Can we find better ways? Yes, Carmen. And we're moving forward there.
Someone has answered that speech assisted devices are also covered by ADP. Thank you,
Thank you. Yeah.
Janice, for sharing that.
Okay.
And there are free, Alexandra offers, there is free fall devices from government, and that she could share that information later.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. So yeah, okay, so people, you're welcome to ask questions. I'm smiling here because I actually thought there might be a lot here, but I know, Carmen, I could keep commenting on a few things. If there's any other questions you have.
Well, yeah, maybe some general questions. You know, some people find technology overwhelming. What do you suggest for people to, jump over that obstacle to at least try something?
Okay, you just actually answered it at the very end, Carmen, without even realizing. Okay, so a lot of people find it overwhelming. They're afraid of it, some of them. Okay, that's fine. You don't have to, you might not trust it. Okay, so here's the answer when it comes to technology. So there's two groups here. Is it the technology for the caregiver or the technology for the care recipient, the person they're caring for? Some people come to me and they have their own opinions about the person they're caring for. Says, yep, dad is stubborn. They lead with that. He's not going to try this, and it's going to be better for him. He should be doing this. I said, well, if he doesn't want to do it, it's his personal choice. You know, he's allowed to. Okay. But my tip that I always tell people is, can you try it? Okay. You said it, try. The key word is try. Technology, I could talk about any technology. I forgot, like here's like another tracking device that I use to find my keys. You know, just for me, I have so much things that where the heck did I leave my keys? I have two different types of just beepers that I could find it easily. So I don't have to stress over that. I know I'll always find it. Okay. But I can't just keep talking to you guys about this. You need to try it to experience it. And be aware, a lot of technologies, just like a lot of things you can buy, you can return it. So I tell people, look at the return date, 30 days or more. If you buy it online, it's usually at least 30 days. And just say, hey, dad, or give it a try. Okay. If you don't like it, we go back to the old life. Okay. But you got to touch it, feel it, just see it. And in all honesty, a lot of people have come to me on that. They say, I don't know if I want to try that, Ron. I said, try it out. And then I would call them up like 2-3 months later. I said, or not even before the warranty's up or the return policy. And they say, I said, let me take it away now, or let's take it away. He said, no, I want to keep it now. Okay. So best technology, in my opinion, are the technologies that you don't want to give back. Okay. So if an innovator that's creating something that says that's part of, like if I say right now, Carmen, I'm going to take your computer away from you, you and I will not be hanging out together today. So that'd be a sad experience. So you got to try it out. Okay. And look at the policy. Yeah.
I've got two questions for you, Ron. Here's the first one. You mentioned using technology for swallowing difficulties. What sorts of technologies?
Okay, so I believe someone might have looked up when I talked about my challenges, and I always get confused. Aphasia, I think, is or aphasia, but swallowing difficulties. So it might not be as obvious to people, but for me, it was a blender. Okay, now that might make sense to some people, but for my dad, we had to blend some of his food. Okay, yeah, that's if I didn't have a blender, okay, we wouldn't be able to create something that will be that experience of him swallowing. We needed that. Okay. So that technically is technology. Nothing brand new, just that's my answer for that. Okay.
Okay. And more questions are coming in. So here's the next one. Is there a site where all of the newest ideas are compiled? I went to your site, but maybe I'm not seeing it.
Oh, okay. So I don't have it on my site because the answer is there will never be a site that has everything, okay, that you want. So let's pick, I have to say a name. Let's pick the biggest online retailer, Amazon. Okay, they're huge. Okay, they don't even have everything that you want, but they have a lot. Okay, but are they the best ones? Well, Amazon can deliver it easily, but they might have a better price, but maybe that's not the best technology. It might be somewhere else. Okay, there's a lot of competition for sometimes the same devices. Okay, there's this one. Okay, you can get off Amazon. Okay, this is just a monitoring camera that turns and all that. There's this one, Canadian. It's called Altum View. Okay, Altum View based out of BC. Full disclosure, I've advised with them in the past. Okay, but this one, when it comes in, it converts the person into a stick figure. You don't actually see their face or their body. Okay. So this can, for example, go in places like the bathroom, okay, where you're not going to see someone naked. Okay. I think this is actually on Amazon. I believe it is, but some of these aren't on Amazon. Okay. So the answer is there is no one site. There have been sites to try and put as many out there. I love those friends of mine that are trying to create these sites, but it's never enough. Alzheimer's Society has one site, Alzheimer's Ontario, okay, with locating devices. We couldn't keep up with that, or they couldn't. It's been passed on to the University of Waterloo, and they have like, I don't know, 30 locating devices. There's probably 200 out there. So that's kind of my response.
Okay. Two other offers of information here. One is that for stroke survivors, the March of Dimes has a technology division, so you might get some ideas from them. And then somebody was also offering information about yes, automatic door openers for people in wheelchairs are also covered by ADP.
Mhm.
Thank you for that information. And there's a question here that's kind of been cut off, but part of it is saying that there are Tactus speech application used on the laptop or tablet, and that both parties can work through using this.
Yeah, communication. Yes, again, so many apps. I use text to or speech to text. Okay, when I'm doing some work with the Alzheimer's Society Montreal, I don't speak French yet. I'm still trying to learn that, but they speak 95% French in the meetings I'm with them, and that's even So there's a lot of these communication tools. That's big. Carmen, I need like 20 seconds, or no, 30 seconds to show one more video because I think it applies to some of these questions. I want to share that very quickly. And then people can see this. And you guys kind of tell me, what is this technology? Some of you are going to figure it out. And here we go. Because it's been one of the popular ones 10, 15 years ago that people kind of got attracted to when I was presenting. Here we go. People are trying to look, what is that? What are the clues? Hey, there's a cat box there. Oh, what is that? Is that white sand? Oh, that looks like litter. Oh, this is a litter robot. Okay, so we will stop that. Okay. What that is a litter machine, okay, to clean out cats. Carmen, do you have a cat?
No longer.
Oh, okay, so same as my mom, no longer. But you loved your cat, okay? How much time did it take for you to clean the litter box daily? Give me a number.
I'm reading the 5 questions on the chat here.
Okay.
So.
Yeah. So let's say 5-10 minutes a day. My mom had to do that. Think of her as the caregiving for my dad. This $500 investment, okay, reduce that from 10 minutes a day, okay, to 10 minutes a week. So she saves about 1 hour a week. In 1 year, that's 50 hours, okay, of not cleaning the litter box. Over 10 years, that's 500 hours for a $500 investment for my mom, the caregiver. Imagine what a caregiver gets out of that investment. That's an example of innovation. Okay.
So I want to thank all of you for joining and for the stimulating questions that we're going to continue to try to respond to. Thank you so much, Ron, for sharing all of your insights and your knowledge of all these tools that are there to help us be better caregivers. Thank you very much and have a good day.
Thank you, everyone. Happy spring.